we have people from outside of our business that are creating that we know are natural creators because they've already posted 30 videos on YouTube about our products and other products as well. And they speak the language of the people that we're selling to, versus if you try and take me as a marketer trying to speak the language of a professional software tester, I'm not going to
Right.
nail it. Right.
That's a funny way to
Just
put it. I'm not going to nail it.
it's a polite way to put it, I think.
You're listening to the Revenue-Driven CMO, the podcast where we break down the most effective growth strategies from top marketing leaders. Join us every week as we dive into their stories, challenges, and insights that drive revenue. This show is brought to you by Level Agency, where AI-enabled performance marketing expertise blends the art and science of marketing to deliver measurable results.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Revenue-Driven CMO. I'm your host, Chris Mechanic, here with a really exciting guest. I can't wait to get into it with him. He is a 5-time CMO, a truly revenue-driven, results-oriented executive, and he's proven that 5 times, literally 5 successful exits under his belt. So I'm super excited to get into it with him. He's a team builder. He's a community builder. He's a pipeline builder. He's also an accomplished author with his book, Unfair Mindshare, hitting multiple Amazon bestseller lists. It was the #1 new release in, I think, like 10 or 12 different categories, like from customer relationships, direct marketing, public relations, organizational learning. These were the categories that it was ranked #1 in. And currently he's CMO at Katalon, which is an exciting and fast-growing category leader in the AI augmented software testing space. So I'm excited to learn more about that too. But ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Mr. Derek Weeks. How are you?
It's great to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Me too, man. I have a feeling we're going to get really geeky today.
Yeah. There's a rabbit hole. Let's go down it.
Cool. Well, we like to lead with the value. We're all about the big secrets. So what would you say, what is one of the biggest secrets to your success in marketing?
Yeah, well, I'll say it's not so much of a secret if you worked on my teams, because I tell everyone about this as we work. And so I've spent 30 years in B2B software marketing. And in a marketing role, people are often hired into an organization. Like, you're in marketing and your job is to market the product or to market the company that we work at. And yes, that's certainly part of the job. But I think the thing that I recognized really early in my career, and it was as a product marketer when I started my career, was it's actually not really about the product that you have or the company that you're working at, but it's the value of the thing that you are delivering to consumers and how they use it. So part of this is you have to work beyond and imagine yourself beyond the product and the company where you work to say, Chris, I have this product and I'm going to sell this to you. But the product is only part of your day. It's one thing that you're going to do, but it probably integrates and works with the job that you have, the daily task that you have. How do I fit into that and imagine what that is? So kind of taking a step beyond the product and the company to think about, how do people work? How do I make you a better marketer? How would I make you a better geneticist? How would I make you a better farmer? How would I make you a better pharmacist? Whatever that might be. And to spend some time in a marketing effort focused on that realm of helpfulness and understanding then, how do I fit into that ecosystem where you're trying to become better at your profession? And I kind of label these things as the first orbit is your product, the second orbit is your company, and the third orbit is the community or the ecosystem or the market that you're in. And I think too many marketers spend their time all of their time on the first and second orbit in B2B and don't kind of focus on the bigger realm, which has the largest potential part of your market in it.
Okay. I think I understand what you're saying. So basically it's like, okay, let's say that you're a marketing agency, like
Yeah.
level. Um, our, our product or service is essentially, hey, we'll help you with your marketing. Our company is our company, but you're saying, hey, what are the different ways that you can integrate into somebody's day and make them actually a better marketer? And let's talk about that a little bit more. And that sort of leads into community.
Yeah. And so part of it, like with your business, right now we're recording this podcast, right? And we're talking about marketing. It's not specifically talking about your business, but as a result of this conversation and content that people are listening to, they're like, well, I'm not really in the market for the thing that Chris does, but for the last year, I've been listening to Chris in this podcast, and he's super helpful as a marketer and knowing his craft and introducing me to people that are in marketing that are helping me improve my craft. So when I'm actually in the market for the thing that you do, will you get a seat at the table? Right. And that part of being helpful and serving the community that you're in can actually play toward the thing that you're trying to do with your business, which is make more money than you spend and grow the business overall and get more customers.
Well, it's also nice that it feels good too, right? Like it feels a lot better to be like, hey, here's something helpful and usable that you can have and you can enjoy much more than like, hey, buy my product.
So the keys to this, and you're hitting on it there when you say it's more enjoyable. Part of it is this conversation, the people that are listening to us, this is just human to human conversation. We're not pitching anything. We're just sharing and being helpful. The second is because we're not pitching, it's authentic. So people want to listen to it. What's Derek going to say next? What's Chris going to say next? How's that going to apply to my life or my world or my job, that I'm going back to after I finish this podcast, right? And I think that human to human experience, the helpfulness, the authenticity is something that you can really, focus on investing in those kinds of opportunities in order to attract and gain the attention of and earn the attention of a much larger market. If this was just a sales pitch between us and you were pitching me, no one would want to really listen into that. Maybe your competitors, maybe one or two people that would be in the market want to hear what this conversation would be if it were a pitch, but you can attract a much larger audience to listen to these kinds of conversations and do it, at very large scale. So when I was doing this, what I'm doing now at Katalon, we have a community that if it didn't hit 100,000 members today, it will in literally the next day or two. We're at 99,000 something or other. I haven't actually checked this morning.
Oh, wow. Congrats. I think when we did the prep call, you were at like 72,000 or something.
It has grown tremendously. We add about 3,000 people a month into the community as a whole. And there's a variety of stories we can get into there, but I've done this at prior companies that I worked at. We grew a community from 0 to 100,000 people. And as a marketer, it didn't seem that special when we were doing it. It was just, this is what we're doing to talk to the market and contribute and be a valued player in the market and valued people in the market that we were serving. But when we go off and tell people, oh, we had 40,000 people attending our event, the eyes kind of lit up like, how do I do that?
Yeah.
How do I get people engaged in, that kind of community or conversation or large scale helpfulness? And that's just the thing that we kind of knew how to do a little more naturally because we weren't focusing 100% of our time on the product and the company as a whole. It's not that we didn't do those things. It's just we allowed some of our time and investment to be on that third orbit of community and engagement to scale that large.
I love this way of thinking about it. I would love it if you could tell us a story, like the story that you're most proud of in terms of community building. Maybe it's at Sonatype. I know you haven't been at Katalon all that long yet.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Sonatype, maybe it's all day DevOps, but like you can choose, or maybe it is Katalon. You can choose whatever story
The
like.
Sonatype story. So when I was at Sonatype, I was VP of marketing there. And part of what we participated in this market that Sonatype was in, and Sonatype kind of played into two markets. One was DevOps or developer and IT operations for software development. And the other was it played into application security and kind of the cross section of those. But as part of that, when we were going to market, what we were doing initially to introduce ourselves and become familiar with that market was we went out to a whole bunch of in-person events, and they were often regional, sometimes national events, maybe more often local events and meetups. And we would go to these events, learn from others there, meet others, make friends in the community, what have you. But I'd run into someone like you and I'd be like, hey, Chris, where do you work? Oh, I'm at Wells Fargo, right? Okay, you're in the DevOps practice. How many people are in the DevOps practice at Wells Fargo back at the office that didn't come to this event? And you'd say like, oh, there's like 300 or 700 or 1,500 or whatever, these large businesses. And there was this thirst for people that wanted to learn about DevOps. But the way that people were doing it wasn't happening at scale, meaning Wells Fargo sending Chris and one other employee to this conference that then have to go back and try and, believe that they're going to educate the other 1,500 on here's what I learned at this great conference and attending. Just that scale was not happening. And we thought, one, there's a heavy desire for learning in this market. Two, we need to make this information available at a broader scale to people. So this was back in 2016 where everyone was doing physical events. We decided to go online and do an online event years before COVID. And we said, we're just going to get 60 people together that we know from the industry that are going to deliver presentations that are not vendor pitches. First, no vendor pitches. Second, we're going to do it online. So it's accessible to anyone, no matter where you live. We're going to run it for 15 hours straight. We're going to have a couple of tracks and it's going to be free. So Chris, if you're at Wells Fargo and you want all 700 people at Wells Fargo to attend and the DevOps team, you can do that. Reserve your conference room at your business, reserve your lunchroom, auditorium, whatever. Everyone can come in and watch and participate. We'll set up a Slack discussion channel, what have you. Some exciting things about now that I've kind of set up why we were going to establish this community and conference was just on the idea alone. We're going to share information that's no vendor pitch, free, free to register. It's online. We had 300 people want to register in the first month. We didn't even have speakers. We just went out for a call for speakers for this event. And people were like, that sounds cool. How do I register? And we were like, register for what? We don't even have the set of speakers. We're trying to find them. And we had a couple of friends we were certainly inviting in. So we knew like just 300 people alone wanting to register for something that didn't even exist was pretty exciting. We sent our first email out at Sonatype. And I remember there were just two of us working on this. It wasn't like some grand big project. We sent out the first email, and our demand gen team helped us with this. And they said, hey, Derek, Mark, 3,000 people registered for this thing that you're doing today. What is it? What are you doing? do you need help? Like they literally weren't looped in because
They're like, this was the most vague email we've ever sent. Like,
it was
what are you talking about?
like a college mark. There were 5 people that didn't even work for Sonatype that said, "Hey, we're just going to do this, and we think we can get 1,000 people to participate." So 3,000 people registered for that. We got more and more people involved in just spreading the word that we were going to do this for the community. And from the start of the idea of we're executing to actually launching the first conference was 90 days. And we had 13,000 people show up for the first one. And the cost to implement, I can't share the cost to implement it, but we'll just say the most meager of marketing budgets could have done this.
Was it like a day long or half a day or like?
So the first one was 15 hours that we did. It might have been, 15 hours. And then each year after that we did it, I did it for 5 more years. And it still runs today at Sonatype as part of their programs. But we ran it for 24 hours. We had 5 simultaneous tracks. We had 180 speakers. We had in the years after that, we had between 30 and 40,000 people a year participating in the online conference. We had tens of thousands of people in the Slack discussion forums. And it was all about just being helpful. There was never any Sonatype product pitch as part of that. We didn't let anyone do it for all the years that we ran that. And it was just this forum to be helpful. But then, going back to the conversation we were having earlier, when we did this and when some portion of that market that we were reaching happened to be in the market for a DevOps and security, connected, kind of integrated solution, we were able to get a seat at the table. And we were able to measure not only the brand awareness that we generated through that community, but we could track people from those community efforts all the way through our demand gen pipeline into revenue conversion. And we reported that directly to the board. And I think that's where, most CMOs or community leaders miss is they do this great community thing that may not talk about the company and the product at all, but they don't connect it to the revenue at the business, like the revenue generating portion of the business. When you can do that, it allows you to say as a CMO, is it worth investing in this practice moving forward? And what kind of return are we getting from the investment? And if you're just at a level of, well, people feel good and they like us, it's really hard to say, well, yeah, I'm going to put 25,000 or 100,000 or whatever it might be into that kind of program next year when we do budget planning. But if you can say, well, we invested $10,000 in this and we generated, $700,000 in pipeline and we closed $350,000 in deals from that thing, it makes it easier to invest when you know the economics of what is the result of the effort and how does it play into the thing that we're all in charge of in these roles is growing the business more than.
Of course. Yeah. The question at that point becomes how much can I invest before it starts diminishing? So I want to talk about measurement and outcomes in a second, but first I want to ask you, so when we talk about building community, is that the quintessential play, like set up an event where you're bringing speakers and invite your community to that event, which might be one day or multiple days and virtual? Like, is that the primary and quintessential play for like getting it going and getting it started? Or are there like dozens of different plays that you might run?
There are a lot of different plays that you can run. You can do it virtually. You can do it in person. And it's not the event is something that the thing when we were doing the event, which was really cool and all these people came in, it was only one day a year for 24 hours. So it wasn't a thing that was sustainable. If you imagine like Lollapalooza, right, as a concert, we often talked about the relationship between what we were doing and like these rock concerts or festival kind of things that happen once a year, and they're really exciting for that day, that year when they happen, but then what happens in between. And you can't build a community on just an event that happens once a year. So part of what we did, and I think anyone else that forms community and runs community, is you have to have a place for people to gather and understand this is the place that I come and join consistently. And part of that, in the case of all day DevOps that we were running at Sonatype, was the Slack community. Other parts of it was we showed up at in-person events throughout the year, and we were the all day DevOps people, and our tribe of speakers that we invited from outside our company were also part of that community. And we would wear our t-shirts, we would give away our laptop stickers and things like that and be present. Sometimes we even purchased booths or had booths donated to us.
Oh, I see. So All Day DevOps was an organization created by Sonatype.
Yes.
Got it.
We ran it as a community thing. And for the years that we were running it, you would never know that Sonatype was actually behind that community unless you knew us in particular. Like, I was one of the hosts for years of it. So people recognized me as part of the community and contributing to that. And they knew where I worked, but we weren't trying to do it as, hey, Sonatype is trying to do this thing for the community. Because if we did that from the start, people would expect, oh, they're going to pitch us. If we're going to show up there and they're saying their company is doing this for the community, there's got to be a pitch associated with it. It would erode the brand trust that we were building from the community standpoint. But you can do all sorts of things. I participate in a CMO community every Friday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern time. There's a group of about 150 of us that get on. We're all CMOs or heads of marketing. 6 Sense and Heinz Marketing started to organize this thing. And literally, if you want to know where I am Friday morning at Eastern, I'm there. And I've been there for the last 4 years. Like, that is a forum and predictable place that we gather and have conversations. There's also a Slack channel. We also meet each other in person when we go to industry events or marketing events, that we'll meet in person. But I think it's just giving people different opportunities in different places to gather. And that could be inline or online, in person. It could be blogs. It could be videos. It could be Slack forums. It could be books that are written by the community. Anything that kind of fills the space and the kind of the continuous nature of conversation, because community is not a just show up once kind of thing. Just show up to a webinar and all of a sudden you're part of a community. That's not really what a community is or what people expect from one.
Well, it's impressive to me that you at Sonatype sort of spun this All Day DevOps out into its own little entity. Cause like I'm looking at your LinkedIn and like you have yourself like that is a listing like separate. And I think that's interesting. I think it's also interesting that your target audience is probably the hardest to sell to, right? Like developers, they're very web savvy, very security conscious, like very allergic to pitches probably, right? So I think that maybe the reason that you guys invested.
Here's the thing about it. We were being helpful from the start. So if you're a developer or leading development teams or operation teams, what have you, you want to learn from others that are doing it. And the thing that we did was we didn't create the speakers at the event were not our employees. They were people in the industry. We created the forum for those people to interact. We did not create the content that they felt was helpful. The content was the presentations at the conference. It was the blogs that came after it. It was the exchanges on Slack. We provided the forum for it to happen. And as a result, we attracted a lot of people. Those people, if you imagine All Day DevOps, 180 speakers, each presenting for 30 minutes apiece, created 90 hours of video-based content in a single day. that trying to hire that people that knew about the space to develop that kind of expert content in that short a period of time would have been economically unfeasible.
Wow. So you then took that content and
We
respun it.
didn't pay anything for it either. We just said, we're paying to create the forum to host this thing. You come and share information with others that you believe they will find helpful. So we did that. The content came together. We had the content at the conference. We provided it on demand for years that people could go back and watch the content. We summarized the content from the sessions and blogs. We took the blogs and compiled them into books. We went to physical, events in the industry. We did book signings and handed out the books as part of that. So there was a long tail of content that was developed. But if you think about certain things we brought all these people together. We have a community of 100,000 people. Now I want to create an industry survey. So we go out and survey them. If I could get 5% of that 100,000 to participate in the survey, which would be totally reasonable, I can do a state of the industry survey, which we did with 5,000 people participating in it. And now I actually know more about the industry because I've surveyed everyone, and I can use that for my own internal enablement, but I can also use it as thought leadership to go out and share with the community. Here's the state of things, as you all said that they were. And then, by the way, I want to get myself and others speaking opportunities at conferences. We would go on stage and present. Here's the state of the industry survey that the community shared. And we would even invite the community to create the survey with us. So we'd have them give us the questions to put in the survey. Then we could get more visibility for our employees, our brand, and our products to be part of that. Here are the people that are being helpful and that I trust. Who do I want to do business with as a result?
Yep. So, so I have multiple questions, but one question that I have for you is, were there any direct monetization mechanisms or motions? Like, did you at all try at any point to monetize, or was it all just purely goodwill? Like, I'm just going to give and hope that you come and ask me for help sometime.
On the community side, we didn't monetize anything. We didn't make a dime. We never sold anything to the community for the community. If not, we just gave it away. If we raised money to run the conference from various sponsors. We would buy, I don't remember what the exact number was, but an exorbitant amount of swag. And we would send it to people all over the world. Like, Chris, you're hosting a viewing party at your office and you have 20 people coming. Here's 20 t-shirts to give away. So we would like that.
And that'd be Sonatype swag or all day DevOps?
No, all day DevOps swag. We were just the people that facilitated.
So you never even mentioned Sonatype? Like, it wasn't even like a sponsor badge or anything?
It was, Sonatype was a sponsor like everyone else was a sponsor to this thing. But it was very much just, this is a community thing that we're doing. And you knew I worked at Sonatype. I mean, that wasn't a secret. Like, we didn't try and make it a secret that, where I worked and kind of keep that under wraps. We were very public about that, but it was just, we're doing this thing for the community. And we made sure day after day, month after month, year after year, that we kept the brand promise that we made. No vendor pitches. This is free. We're being helpful. And because of that, it certainly impacted. So the revenue generating side of it was Sonatype. We grew the company tremendously during that time period. And all day DevOps was certainly part of that growth success that the business had, because we were looking at what is the impact of people that were in the community that then entered into our pipeline at a future stage and converted into customers and stayed as customers or expanded as customers. We certainly measured those things to understand we were creating an impact there.
Well, for folks that that aren't maybe necessarily familiar with Sonatype, uh, Sonatype is basically a platform for DevOps, developers, cybersecurity. Um, is it the type of product where it's like pay as you go and you can easily sign up, or is it a type of thing which is like, you know, six figure plus annual sort?
More of six-figure annual, large enterprise scale solution that you're buying into. There were free products that Sonatype had. There was a free product called the Nexus repository that has hundreds of thousands of instances out there that developers use and use it for free. And we use that to build brand trust with them. And when we went in and had our complimentary paid product offering, that allowed us a warm intro to those organizations as well.
Yeah. So let's talk about the economics of it, right? So I want to know, okay, through that entire time, and I know we don't have to talk about exact numbers, but let's say through that entire time you spent $10 and made $100 or $1,000. But I'm curious about like event one, like that first event that you did, you spent maybe 50 cents, and did you make $1, or did you make only 25 cents at first?
No, I can't share the exact numbers, but let's just say our economics on that effort year after year had metrics that anyone would envy in any part of marketing. That it was incredibly inexpensive for what we did, and the return that we had off of that was kind of off the charts types of return.
I love it. That's so scrappy. Yeah. I mean, it must have been 10 to 1, because 10 to 1 would be enviable by any metric.
Yeah. So if you imagine 10 to 1 and you're happy with that, let's go with that. And it was,
I mean, anybody who wouldn't be happy with that.
it was probably much better than that. But part of it is, I'll kind of shift gears a little to where I am at Katalon now. And I looked up on our community. We're at 99,696. So
You hear that, folks? Go sign up.
really go be part of the community that we have. But
That was another question though. What do you consider a sign up? Is that somebody who's registered for an event, or do you have like a platform?
yeah, so at Katalon, there are kind of two main entryways into our community. One is we offer free training and certification and it's a product specific community, not a community of interest. So when you come, there are product discussions because it is a product community. We have free products, we have paid products. People will come to get free training and certification on our products. This could help them either enter the domain as I want to be in software testing as a software testing professional. How do I do this? How do I get experience? How do I get started? Or I am in that profession and I want to improve in this profession, maybe reach some level of new certification that I don't.
That's cool. So you're almost like training the workforce in a way.
That's one path. And I'll have a story, come back to the training the workforce story. So that's one path to come in. And the other side is a discourse community. And this is, hey, I have a question about how this is done. And it might be with our products. It might be integrating our product with another product. It might be, I'm looking for a bit of code that integrates this thing with this other thing. Does anyone have that, willing to share that? It could
Is
be
that on Slack, or is that like on a private forum?
so discourse is similar to Slack and the conversation forum. So anyone that signs up there is anyone can go and view it. It's all accessible on Google. We get 80,000 people a week coming to visit that community and the content that's there. But if you want to contribute, you need to sign in and become part of the community.
Yeah. But that's not something that you guys made a big investment in. You just go set up a discourse community, just like you would a Slack group. Like it wasn't costly.
No, it is not costly to do that kind of thing. And I think that more importantly is you have to be in something like the Discord forum. And even if it's Slack or something else, one, there have to be people that are coming there to share information. When you share information or when you ask a question, there has to be a response coming back. So Chris, if you went to the community, you're like, I have a question. How do I do this with this particular product? Or how does this particular feature work? Because I've read the documentation, I still can't figure it out, whatever that might be. If it takes you a week to get a response in that community, you're going to feel like this is not very active and it's not very helpful. But if you logged in and you asked that question and within a couple of hours, someone says, here's the answer, or got it, I think I know someone that knows that answer. Let me go and find that for you. And you get that responsiveness. It keeps you coming back for, oh, these are the people that are helpful and they're actually there, being helpful to us. And I think that is, that's an incredible part of one, letting us serve the community. Two, for people that are prospects of ours, they can come in and try our products, download a free version of our product. We tell people, I think is even on our homepage, from day one, you're never alone, right? So if you go and you do this individual action, I'm going to go to the Katalon website and download your free product. You're all alone at that point for free product and download and experience. But now you're like, wait, how do I find other people that know about this stuff that I can learn from, that can get me up to speed on this? Who do I go to? And we don't say, well, contact support or email, contact us if you have a question. It's no, dive in here. There's a lot of people in here. They're very active. If you have a question, they'll help answer it for you. And it may be one of our employees or maybe someone from the community that does that. And that helps people feel more comfortable doing business with Katalon. And then when we have customers or prospects that end up becoming customers, and they say, okay, I just bought 10, 100, 1,000 licenses for the software that you have. How do I help my team get up to speed on this? We'd say, jump into the community. One, yes, we have customer success that's going to help you along, but know the community is there because they're practitioners like you, and they can help you with questions from a practitioner to practitioner standpoint. So let's make sure you get the training that's free, the certification that's also free, and you have access to the discourse forum. And that helps you become more successful as a customer. And we can see we can see who's touching our community before they become a customer. That is an intent signal that they're more likely to become a customer. If 30 people just signed up for the community from a particular company this month, that's a pretty strong intent signal that they're in market looking at solutions like ours.
And do you do anything with those intent signals, or you just are observing?
Oh yeah. It's part of, we have multiple layers of intent signals, whether those are HubSpot-based measurements as MQLs. We have account-based marketing solutions that give us other account-based signals. We have community, which is yet another signal. We have G2, which is yet another signal from the market of who's in market looking at particular things. But we look at this not only pre-sale, but post-sale, how many people are engaging, because if you come to us and you buy 100 licenses and I tell you, hey, those products are new to you, you want to get people up to speed. If only 2 people out of 100 take the free training that we have, something's wrong. Like there's a negative signal there that this account is not using the software. They don't care to use it. They're probably not active with it. But if I could get maybe 70 out of 100 participating in free training or logging into the community to participate, then I know it's a much more active, healthy account that's building a relationship with us in the community. And those that those that are more active in the community are much more likely to expand for much larger deal sizes than those that are not active. So we know it's definitely a helpful part of our business.
Well, it's interesting that it's like product focused at Katalon, whereas at Sonatype, it sounds like it was not at all product focused.
And you can have both. And we had a product focused community when I was at Sonatype. It was not as large by any means. And the thing that I'm doing with our community at Katalon, while it's a product community, we're looking at how can we expand into communities of interest where people that might not want to use our products or might not be ready to use our products yet, how helpful can we be to them?
Just like regardless of what tech they're using. I mean, there's a large, community of software testers, QA engineers, things like that. And I'm sure there's just like a lot of tricks and tips and hints and gotchas,
Yeah. Just as there are in any kind of career where you can do that. And I think part of, the interesting thing, well, I didn't make the training and certification free. Those decisions were made before I came on board at Katalon, but several of our customers have said it's a huge differentiator. Like you could, and other vendors do, charge for training and certification on their products. And we just looked at it as, oh, that's not being helpful.
Well, it kind of reminds me of HubSpot a little bit, right? Because HubSpot was, I think, one of the OG, like early community builders. And they've done an amazing job in there, and they just have so much free content. Like you could literally, like you're talking about training the workforce, like you could literally, somebody that's interested in marketing could go and just opt in to all of HubSpot's various materials and learn how to be an amazing marketer just by reading about, or just by reading what HubSpot.
Yeah. And one of the cool things about the community is, so we develop a product, we release a new version of it, and someone out there in the community, you can find these people on YouTube, has a channel that talks to software testers, and they say, oh, there's a new release of Katalon's product and I'm reviewing it right now. And I've tested it. I've worked through it. Like, here's what I liked. Here's what I didn't like, what have you. But they're professionals talking to other professionals in the market. There are a number of those people that produce that content as their own kind of side hustle, if you will. And we reach out to them and like, hey, we actually have a need from our community that they want training on this particular product or this feature of this product or this capability that you can use our product for. If we gave you a little money toward your side hustle, could you just create that training course for us? So it's not even our employees that are building all of the training content. We have people from outside of our business that are creating that we know are natural creators because they've already posted 30 videos on YouTube about our products and other products as well. And they speak the language of the people that we're selling to, versus if you try and take me as a marketer trying to speak the language of a professional software tester, I'm not going to nail it. Right?
That's a funny way to put it. I'm not going to nail.
It's a polite way to put it, I think.
All right, cool. Well, hey, time is flying by. That's the sign that this is a good episode. We didn't even really get a chance to talk about some of the other things that we wanted to talk about, but I want to wrap this up and put a bow on it for folks that are listening. You're a B2B software person, right? And many of the listeners are too, but we also have some, B2B professional services firms out there. We've got some B2Cs and some D2C listeners. Is community like right for everybody? Like think about the lawyers, the accountants, the consultants, like the specialty consultants. Think about like on the B2C side, think about the home services companies, solar providers. Like, is this a play that is applicable to everybody, you think, or is it like best suited for B2B SaaS type plays?
It's literally suited for anyone, but with a caveat. There are a lot of people that I have discussions with, or just in the market overall, and we need community. We need, like, I heard these people have community. Our competitor has a community. I was working in this one space. They had a big community. We need to do that. Right. And the first thing that they do is they're like, and I'll dive into this a little. Why do you want a community? Well, like Derek said, 100,000 people are coming to this thing. I want to pitch our product to 100,000 people. And when you start in that way, that's like, I just want access to a giant audience that Derek said was really cost effective in order to pitch them. That's not community, right? So part of the discussion that I just had this conversation with someone else who's a B2B marketing professional. And they said, I've really thought about starting a community and want to start one. And I said, first, what is your community going to be about? Like, who are you going to target? And like any marketing, who's your ICP? Is it an individual contributor? Is it a specific role in marketing? Is it people within a specific region of the world or a specific local market? That you have to understand who you're serving, and then you have to understand why they would want to participate in this. So imagine we have this conversation. People are like, wow, Derek and Chris really hit it off. And like, I want to show up every week and hear them talk about this. It's not just what is the conversation that we're having today that got people to listen. What would we have to say right now to get people to show up a week from now for our second conversation? And what would we have to say then to get them to show up the following week for the next conversation? And would it just be you and I talking? Would we invite others in? How would we limit the conversation or expand the conversation? And it's really about when I ask people, what will get people to show up for the second time? That's when they stumble. They're like, but I just want the group to all show up at once for the thing, but they don't look at building communities are relationship building. And you don't build a relationship by just showing up of like, I met someone at the coffee shop on the corner. I had a good conversation with them. That's not community. That's literally having one conversation with one person at one time. But how do you get multiple people to show up and keep showing up and give them a reason? If you think about the communities that work that you've seen, they have a reason for people to show up again and again, and they're consistent with what the brand is promising them to show up for. I experienced this, and when I show up the next time, I'm also going to experience that. And so if you think about what would get people to show up for the next 10 times, if you can figure that consistency out and the brand promise and the audience that would be most interested in that, it's worth going down that path. And you can literally do that for any profession, any career, any topic, can form a community around it. But again, I think if I told you, or I told the listeners, hey, show up to, next week when Chris and I are just going to pitch our products all day. And by the way, the one after that, we're also going to pitch our products. No one would show up because they don't want to hear that. They're looking for some other value or level of helpfulness.
And so what would be an easy way to test it? Like, because we don't want to necessarily go all in, right? You don't want to necessarily, discourse seems cool and relatively inexpensive, but like that might be a little too much for the test. I like the way you tested it in a really scrappy way. But like, what's a playbook for just like testing the waters to see like, hey, is my audience even interested in it?
Here's the playbook I've told several people to follow. And this is what we did for All Day DevOps as well. I said this earlier in the conversation, but I'll repeat it for those that to emphasize the point. When we started All Day DevOps, there was myself and my colleague, Mark, who worked at Sonatype. But from the very start, we went out to 5 people that did not work for our company. And we said, we have an idea of this thing that we want to do for the community. Do you think it's a good idea? And if you do, would you help? And we actually went to more than 5, but we had a couple of still people that are my good friends to this day that said, I think that's a dumb idea. I don't want to do it. But we got 5 people to buy in and they worked on it with us. And if you can get people outside of your business to say, hey, I've got this idea for this group that I want to bring together to have a discussion. Like, I want to set up a forum where we have a discussion on this. It's a lot easier to define the thing that will attract people because if you only take your employees, it often ends up in this, well, we got to talk about our product and company at some point, don't we? Like, that's what we're made for. And it just converts this goodness conversation that people that don't work for you want to have into something that I think has longevity.
Yeah. So I've got like a very crude little list here. Be helpful, create the forum, recruit outside experts, be true to the brand promise, i.e. like don't pitch, and then figure out how to get them to show up for the next one. Come up with something that's going to get them to show up for the next one.
Yeah. And there are a whole bunch of other rules.
I know. I was just about to say, like,
there's like 2 chapters on rules of here's what you do. But I'll say the first one is don't talk about yourself. Right? That's the key thing. Even in our product community, Katalon, we're not talking about ourselves. Like, we're not trying to pitch people on you should buy this or you should upgrade to this thing. It's just, do you have a question? We are here and others are here to answer that for you. You know, there you can tell, like, when 80,000 people a week are coming to our community forum, it's because they're searching for something on Google that directs them to the forum. Like, here's where that answer exists. And it exists in this place that these people have created. And those people are probably not employees of our company. It's people in the community that did that. The other thing I'll just leave you with and leave the audience with is, because the community created this content and it's just helpful, genuine exchanges that are not product pitches, we are showing up in ChatGPT search results, like, at a high level. So if I look at the referring traffic on our site and various pages, ChatGPT ranks very, very high in those, because ChatGPT wants to look for authentic information that's not like pitchy content. Like, it can tell what's pitchy vendor-centric content versus just helpful content. Like the kind of content you would find on Reddit that's not pitchy content, it's just people having conversations, right? Would pick up much more on ChatGPT. Communities do the same thing, and we're definitely seeing that in our metrics as part of the new wave of marketing coming in, of people saying, how do you make your efforts future safe? Community also plays into that, but that's probably a future episode of.
Yeah, that's a whole nother. So this was awesome though. I've been inspired personally, and we have actually taken a couple of different stabs at community here and there. I think we're testing it. This podcast is part of a community. We've done also like weekly little sessions, like office hours kind of thing, or growth clinic, we would call it, with some mild success. But I'm inspired personally. So I'm sure a lot of the people listening here are inspired also and learn something. And that's a good chance for me to say that for the listeners, if you have learned something or been inspired or laughed a little bit here today, drop us a like, share this with a friend, pay it forward. I think this is a really timely message. I don't know where you think we are, Derek, on the wave, right? I don't think we're too late for community. I don't think we're too early. I think it's kind of sort of like the perfect time. I don't know how you feel about that.
There's no wrong time for community. It's literally, communities existed before B2B, anything. It was communities got together, whether that was in your neighborhood, at your church, at, your kid's ball game, at your school, whatever that was. Community has existed. There's just ways to facilitate people getting together. And this is one of those, mechanisms in order to do that.
Derek, for folks that want to learn more about you or Katalon, like, where would you direct them?
The easiest place to find me is on LinkedIn. I'm really active there a couple times a day. I'm usually posting something or other a couple times a week. But just DM me. You'd be surprised. As long as you're DMing me to not pitch me on some product or service, I'll probably be responsive and helpful. And then Katalon is Katalon.com. You can find us there and find our community there as well. And if you're listening a couple of days from now, we will probably be over 100,000 members in the community. And anyone interested in my book, Unfair Mindshare, can find it on Amazon. There's just ways to facilitate people getting together. And this is one of those, mechanisms in order to do that.
Unfair Mindshare. I love that title. I'm definitely going to check that out. And we'll include that in the show notes too.
Perfect.
This was really awesome, my man. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me to your forum to have the discussion.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, stay on the line for just 1 minute, but for everybody else, that was another awesome episode of Revenue-Driven CMO, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Revenue-Driven CMO. We really appreciate you being here. For more details, show notes, past episodes, head over to revenue-drivencmo.com. This show is brought to you by Level Agency, combining AI-enabled performance marketing expertise with the right mix of data and creativity to fuel growth. Catch you next week.